Today I would like to teach you how to crochet mosaic crochet, which is also known as overlay crochet. It may seem very tricky, but it really is not. And I'm going to teach you step by step the best ways to do it, in my opinion, the cleanest ways. But there are a few different options to crochet mosaic crochet. Let's talk about the basics first before we talk about these different swatches that are all coming from this graph. So mosaic crochet is done in both single crochet as well as double crochet, although it's mostly known as mosaic double crochet. You call it as double crochet 2 rows down. It is definitely not a front post double crochet, so don't get it confused with that. You're simply crocheting a double crochet over a single crochet or a leftover loop from the single crochet that was done 2 rows down. So let's talk about the basics a little bit more in detail. First of all, you are not changing colors in mosaic crochet within a row. It is only on the edges. So you either are going back and forth and then changing colors on one of the sides, depending on whether you're lefty or righty, or you cut your yarn and you start over, or you're doing slip stitches and going back and then still changing colors on only one side. So the idea is you're not changing colors within a row. So usually that makes a lot of crocheters happy because there's no issues with changing colors there. So it's actually straightforward. You're working with one color at a time. The next thing you want to be aware of is that you are crocheting single crochet stitches anytime you see pretty much a box. However, when you see a color going over another color, that does not mean you're changing colors. That means you're creating a double crochet down 2 rows. And you are pretty much doing it in front of the other color. So here you can see I did yellow here. So this entire row is yellow, but there are a couple of blue squares or pixels. So that means that blue is actually hiding the yellow behind it, and it's coming from up here. So let me be a little bit more clear. We're doing here yellow, blue, yellow, blue. So over here, I would do single crochet, and then double crochet 2 rows down. Now, how we're going to do that over here, that depends on which way you're picking. And I'm going to go through that in a second, okay? So that means you always have 3 stitches right here. You see that? You always have 3 pixels on top of each other. And that's kind of a way to know that you have a double crochet going down. Now, I added these X's. You can also add the actual symbol of a double crochet, but it's very hard to see. I tried that, which is probably why a lot of people use X's. Although the X is typically a single crochet, so don't get that confused. This would be just for mosaic crochet. The X is very obvious. Whenever you see an X, that's when you're doing a double crochet. So, and that is very helpful, by the way. Not all the pixel graphs for mosaic crochet have that though, and not every pixel graph can be a mosaic crochet pixel graph. So you have to have 3 colors here. So what cannot happen is 2 blues and then immediately yellow. That's not going to work because you're going to have you have blue over here in that row, so you can't have yellow over here. So it has to be a multiple of 1 or 3. So over here you can see that. So it will be 1, 2, and 3, but the next one will be also 3. 1, and that is counted twice here. 1, 2, 3. So here you can see that with the yellow too. It starts with 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, right? So because this one is connected to this one. So it's a multiple of 3, but the third one is an overlay for the next one, right? So that's how these mosaic crochet pixel graphs are designed. So, and I have another video to teach you how to do your own pixel graph. So let me now go through the different types of how you can crochet mosaic crochet using just one specific pixel graph, but they're all 3 different ways, but the exact same pixel graph, okay? So this one right here is the smallest, and in my opinion, also the hardest way to do it, okay? So here you would do single crochets whenever you don't see an X, right? And obviously this one, there's a single crochet behind it. So I did that over here as well. So a single crochet everywhere, but in order to prevent having to cut yarn on the edges, I went backward and went slip stitches into the back loop. So that means the left, so you have a single crochet here, right? And you have a front loop and a back loop. So in the back loop, which when you turn around is then the front loop, right? I would then do slip stitches back. You have quite a bit of texture over here, so it makes it very challenging also to maneuver around. Whenever I saw a pixel that was a different color in that row, I actually did a chain. You can do a single crochet, but that's going to make it harder when you do slip stitches. So you would do a chain. So that means over here you have quite a bit of chains hanging down. Okay, you can see that here. So there's a lot of chains just floating around, and everything else is kind of really like bulky. So let me teach you really quickly how to do this in a couple of rows. I'm just going to pretend that this blue row right here is this blue row right here. And I already did my slip stitches back. So now I'm just going to do the yellow and then I'll do one more blue. So I can teach you exactly how to do this version, although it is not my favorite. So you would connect your yarn again. So obviously I cut my yarn, so I'm just going to reconnect it here with a chain. And you can see here I have 2 single crochets, okay, which I'm going to do. And I'm going to do them in the front loop only of this row. So it would be 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet. And the next one, I can see that there is a blue. So this would be a chain in yellow. So a chain right here. And then you would skip that stitch. And then I would see 3 more single crochets. So as I said, whenever you do a chain, you would skip that stitch, and then the next one will be 3 single crochets. So they're all done in the front loop. And then here again, a chain and then 2 single crochets. So a chain, skip a stitch, and then 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet. So now when I turn, I pretty much go backwards, but I'm just going to do slip stitches into what is now the front loop, but technically it's the back loop from this direction, right? It's the front loop from this direction. So I do a chain of 1 and then I do slip stitches. However, you have a choice. Once you hit that chain of 1, you can either do slip stitch onto it or do another chain of 1. I'm just going to do another chain of 1. And then skip that chain, of course, and then again do my slip stitches wherever there was a single crochet, and I'm doing that in that, from my perspective right now, is the front loop, so that I have a leftover loop on the other side. So again, here's a chain, so I did 1 chain, and then here is a slip stitch and a slip stitch. So you can just drop this yarn, or you can do pick up the blue. So I can do that now. So I'm just going to grab my blue and then just can pull it through like that. So you can hide all this yarn later when you do a border, if you wish to do a border. So let's do one more row right here and in blue. So we have here a single crochet, a single crochet. And by the way, up here would be another double crochet, right? So we're doing a single crochet. And we're doing it onto down here, right? So you could do it on top of the slip stitches if you wish, but I'm going to do it on that leftover loop. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. That can be a little bit challenging to see, which is one of the reasons that I don't like this technique very much. You have to find your leftover loops. So we're doing single crochet, and then a double crochet down 2 rows. So single crochet, and then down here you have to now find that leftover loop. So the leftover loop is right there. So you do a double crochet down. So you just insert it from the bottom up and then do a double crochet down. And of course you do nothing here behind it. Ignore these chains that were there. So now you have to look at the next stitches. They're yellow right here, which means they need to be chains because we have yellow going down. So we're doing 3 chains and we're skipping 3 stitches because we're going to need them later. And then the next one is a double crochet down again. So we're going to find that leftover loop right here and make a double crochet. And then you have 2 more stitches, which are single crochet. So again, going into those front loops that were left over. Then you do a chain of 1 and then you turn. So again, you're doing your slip stitches. Whenever you see a single or double crochet, you're doing a slip stitch. And whenever you see a chain, you would do a chain. At the last stitch, you would then change colors again and turn, and then you would keep going with the yellow. So feel free to practice this technique if you like, but it is for sure not my favorite. So now let's do the next swatch so you understand the difference. So we just did this version, and now let's talk about this version right here, and we're doing this one last. So this one is one where you also go back and forth, but you're not doing the slip stitch way. We're doing this single crochet way, which means you're doing everything pretty much twice. So every row is done twice. Besides the ones that have double crochets, you're just going to do a single crochet on top. So this one is much easier than this one, but you can still see it's quite elongated. So everything is done in 2 rows. So that way you don't have to cut yarn. And it's easy just to, change colors here on one edge and then just keep going. So let's do that. So let's pretend I already did my yellow row right here, or 2 rows. We have blue now, so we're actually going to just do 1 single crochet per stitch all the way back and forth, even though there's a double crochet right here. But we're actually going to acknowledge this once we do the yellow. So for the blue, you're just going to do 1 single crochet per stitch. Once you reach the end, you're going to turn and just going to go back and also do single crochet stitches. By the way, for single crochet, I like to skip my chain of 1, but feel free to do that as a turning chain. At the very last stitch, I'm going to change colors. You're now going to do your yellow. So we have 1 single crochet in 2 stitches, and then we have to acknowledge that there is a blue over here. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet. And now you have a choice. You can either do a single crochet in the back loop only, if you wish, or you can do a chain. So that's up to you. So I prefer doing the chain in this technique here, but if you have a lot of things to do, I would not do a chain because it's going to look like this. So if you have a lot of stitches that you have to skip, then the chains will look like that. You can then just go in a back loop. So this one actually allows you a little bit of freedom. Either go in a back loop only if you see another color covering it, or do a chain of 1. For this one, I'm just going to do a chain of 1 and skip the stitch. And then I do my other single crochets. There's 3 of them. And I go through both loops. Again, this is a choice. You don't have to go through both loops. You can just go through 1 loop. And then here I'm doing a chain again. So this is your choice. You can either do a chain and skip the stitch, or you go do a single crochet in the back loop only. And then I have here 2 more single crochets. And now I turn. And I'm going to repeat this row backwards. So I'm going to do the exact same thing backwards. So single crochet, and then here's a chain. And then here's single crochet 3 times, a chain of 1, and then single crochet and single crochet. And then here I need to change colors. So I'm going to pick up my blue. You can do it the front way, the back way, however you feel is right for you. So I'm just going to do it from the front. That means once I turn, it's hanging here in the front. But again, you can also do it the other way around and then have the yellow kind of hanging over. I usually do a border around it anyways. So it doesn't really matter. So now we're going to do the blue. So we have here 1, 2 single crochets, and then we have the double crochet. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets, and now here's the double crochet. So this is where the difference happens, right? So if you did a chain right here, like I did, then you can go through both of these loops here together, because there's blue now down here, and both of the loops are available to you to use. You can use one or both. If you did the single crochet in the back loop only, then you only have one of the loops available, which would be the front loop. So this is up to you, right? It depends on what you chose, which technique. So let me repeat, you have 2 choices. If you did the chains, you can go and do the double crochet through both of the loops or through one loop. And if you chose the technique of doing, when you see a cover up right here, you can do also a single crochet in the back loop only. In that case, you only have the front loop available. So that would be this one right here. So you have 2 choices in this specific model. So I'm just going to go through both, but again, that depends on what strategy you picked. So then here I have 3 yellows, which means I need to do 3 chains. I'm actually going to do for this technique the other one, which means I'm going to not do the chains. I'm going to do the single crochet in the back loop only, just that you see the difference between the 2 different techniques. So I'm going to go in the back loop only right here. So then there I have leftover yellow loops. Okay, so I could use those for the double crochets over here. So now I have here a double crochet again. So I'm going to go down, grab my 2 loops right here, and do my double crochet. And then I have single crochet and single crochet. So at the end of the row, I need to turn, and I'm going to do a single crochet in each stitch. For the ones where I did the back loop only, you can go through both loops now. So, which means I'm just going to go and do single crochets in each stitch, including the one with the double crochet. And at the very end, we're changing colors again. So and now I'm going to do my yellow right here. So we have 1 single crochet. Then we have here the blue that is covering it, right? So that means I either do a single crochet in a back loop only or do a chain of 1 and skip. So you have these 2 different choices. So I'm just going to do a single crochet version again. So that means right here I'm going to do single crochet in the back loop only. Then I have a single crochet and then 3 double crochets. So single crochet, and then go down and do my double crochets right here. So those are the leftover loops. So that's where I'm going to go into. And I'm going to do my double crochets right on top. So now right here is 1 single crochet, and then single crochet in the back loop only and single crochet. So now that I did that, you can kind of see the difference for this technique versus the one with the chains. So the chains are a little bit pushed back, so you don't really see the blue going through. Here you see a tiny peek of it, of the blue, because we did single crochets back here. Okay, so it's a tiny bit visible, but it's not too bad. So now on the way back, you're just going to do single crochets in each stitch. So for this technique, you can also change one more thing, and that is placing all your single crochets in the back loop only, but it would be from one perspective only. So which means when you turn, you would then go into what is for your view, the front loop, right? So that would be this one. Okay, so that's another option that you can do. So instead of going through both loops, you go through from one direction. That means from the front, from the right side, you're just going to go through the back loop only. So that means when you see your project like this, you go through the back loop. And if you turn your project, you would go through what is now, from your perspective, the front loop, but if you would turn around, it would be the back loop. See that? So that's another way you could do this specific strategy of using Mosaic Crochet. So we now talked about this version, which has different ways on how you can do this, right? We talked about the back loop for the single crochet, or doing a chain of 1 and skipping a stitch whenever you see the color layover. We also have one more project, and this one is right here. It looks pretty much the exact same way if you would do this one in rounds. So in my opinion, this is actually my favorite way, even though it is a little bit more yarn intensive because you have to cut your yarn each time. But it looks exactly like the rounds. So here's my little swatch for the rounds. As you can see, I did this in rounds. And as you can see, it looks exactly the same. Plus, it also makes it a square. This project is a square and this is a square. Neither are these. These never turned into squares. They were more elongated. So if you want to be more true to the actual project of how the pixelation looks like, then this version is better. So in my opinion, this is the easiest one to understand as well, because you don't have to really worry too much about the next row. You're just going to do what you see. So for my mind, this version is the easiest version. Here you have to look ahead. These two, you have to look ahead every time. So when you see, for example, here, there's this color layover, you have to look ahead and have to decide, okay, am I going to do a single crochet in a back loop only? Am I going to do chains? What am I going to do for these two versions? But for this version, you're just going to do single crochets in the back loop only the entire time, no matter what the next color shows. And you're doing also only 1 row at a time, so never 2. So technically, if you're really about, saving yarn, this actually saves more yarn than these two, because here you have to do 2 rows, right? This one is slip stitch back and this is single crochet back, right? So here you're just going to cut the yarn. So you have 2 choices on this one. You can weave in your yarn at the end, or you can use it as fringe, or you can do a border around it that is known as the envelope border, which is, very similar if you've done quilting before. It kind of captures your leftover yarn and you just hide it inside a little pocket, and that goes all the way around as a border, so that way you don't even have to weave in your ends. So let me teach you this version now, which is my absolute favorite of all the Mosaic Crochet strategies. So for this specific technique, you are just going to go into the back loop only. So you always have leftover loops hanging, and you're either going to ignore them or you're going to use them for the double crochets down. So that's pretty much it, okay? You're not doing chains, you're not skipping stitches, you're just going to do single crochet in a back loop only, or you're going to do the double crochet, the Mosaic double crochet. So let's pretend I already did the blue and the yellow over here, okay? So let's pretend I did rows 2 and 3 already, and now we're going to go into row 4, and we're going to do this one. So here for the yellow, it didn't matter that there is a blue hanging down. I just did everything in a single crochet back loop only, okay? It does not matter for me if there's a blue right here. You simply ignore it. If there's, again, I prefer making X's where my double crochets are. So if there's no X, it's going to be a single crochet in a back loop only. And it makes it super easy. So that means my yellow row right here is just yellow. See, just single crochet in a back loop only. So now let's do the blue. So I attached it to my back loop. I'm going to do my single crochet because that's the first stitch right here. So single crochet, then there's 1 more. And then we're doing double crochet down, okay? So single crochet, they're all in the back loop, so I'm just not going to say that anymore, right? So they're all in the back loop. And now I have a double crochet. So I'm going to go down 2 rows to the other blue. So you're always connecting colors to colors, right? You probably have noticed that now. So we're going to go 2 rows down to the blue, going through that front loop that's left over, and doing a double crochet right on top of it. So right here, I have now 3 yellows, but that doesn't matter for me for this technique. I'm just going to do blue in a single crochet back loop only. So single crochet, and single crochet, completely ignoring that it's yellow. If there's no X, I'm ignoring it, okay? And then here's a double crochet down again. So we're going to do a double crochet down to the blue. And then here again, just 2 single crochets. And that's it. Now I'm going to cut my yarn. So I'm going to do a slip knot here real quick. And that's it. I finished my blue. So now I can hop over to my yellow. Okay, so let's do the yellow. The next one is row 5. So you can see this is much faster too. And it's so much easier. So we're going to do yellow now. So I'm going to grab my yellow. And the yellow calls for 3 single crochets. Again, we're going to ignore that blue, right? Because we don't use any chains or anything like that. We're going single crochet in the back loop only. So 3 times, 1, 2, 3. And then we have 3 double crochets down. So single crochet, single crochet, and single crochet. And now 3 double crochets down. So there's 3 leftover loops right here. There are the front loops of that yellow. So we're just going to go down 1, 2, and 3. And then we have again just 3 single crochets, and that's it. They're all in the back loop only. It doesn't matter if there's a blue color square or pixel. It doesn't matter. Just going to do single crochet in the back loop only. And now I'm going to cut my yarn. So, and now you're just going to keep on going row by row. And you can see how it beautifully lays over. You can't see that blue in the back. And that's it. So you can see you're connecting the colors obviously from color to color. You're never connecting blue to yellow, right? You're going from blue to blue and from yellow to yellow. And if you see a blue in between in a yellow row, you're simply going to ignore it for this technique. You're just going to do your single crochet in a back loop only. No chains, no skipping stitches, totally ignoring that it's blue right here. Just going to go through. So in my opinion, this is the easiest strategy, the fastest strategy, and it also looks the exact same way, whether it is done in rows or done in rounds, exactly the same way. And it's beautiful, and you just have to figure out what you're going to do with this leftover yarn. You either weave it in, you are going to do the envelope border, or you're going to put a border around it of some other sort. It is totally up to you. I hope this video was helpful on how to do mosaic crochet in 3 different ways. Although, as you probably noticed now, my favorite one is the very last one. It is so much easier and cleaner. And it also is more in perspective to the pixel graph itself. Very important, make your little X's if they're not on your pixel graph, but this is super easy to do. But you can, of course, also try these other techniques. And some people will also teach this version quite often. So you're going to see this one and this one the most of the time, but you can also see this one once in a while. This one is my favorite, and I recommend that to all the beginners to do so. So try it out. Let me know which of these 3 different versions is your favorite. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the bell the next time I publish a new video or go live. I hope to see you then. Bye!